Okay, welcome to the multiple M's of Mormonism, or the mathematics of multiple M's of Mormonism. This one's really going to be about misleading and magic, since we, on our last one, had him doing all kinds of magic, as witnessed by many people, including his mom, including his employer, Josiah Stoll, including his father-in-law, Isaac Hale, including his neighbor that he got the seer stone from and wouldn't give it back from. The guy wanted his seer stone back because he liked to do some scrying himself. Yeah, okay. Let's, more than that. Anyway, we're going to get going on this one. There's Joseph looking at the plates as if he's, mentally working on how to translate them when we know he used the seer stone in the hat, and we're going to show David Whitmer, Martin Harris, and his wife Emma all testifying to that. Okay, misleading ensign. We're going to show that history was different than we learned in the ensign and in Sunday school now, and disabuse the public mind and the minds of the saints. By aid of the seer stone, sentences would appear, and they were read by the prophet and written by Martin, and when finished he would say, "Written." And if correctly written, the sentence would disappear and another appear in its place. But if not written correctly, it remained until corrected. So that the translation was just as it was engraven on the plates, precisely in the language then used. It's in the Comprehensive History of the Church. It says Harris's description concurs with that of David Whitmer, another one of the three witnesses. And here's what David Whitmer had to say. He says, "I will now give you a description of the manner in which the Book of Mormon was translated. Joseph Smith would put the seer stone into a hat and put his face in the hat, drawing it closely around his face to exclude the light. And in the darkness the spiritual light would shine. A piece of something resembling parchment would appear, and under it was the interpretation in English. Brother Joseph would read the English to Oliver Cowdery, who was his principal scribe, and when it was written down and repeated to Brother Joseph to see if it was correct, then it would disappear, and another character with the interpretation would appear. Thus the Book of Mormon was translated by the gift and power of God, and not by any power of man." Okay. Now that's interesting, because there shouldn't have been any corrections needed then, should there have? And I don't think the Nephites knew French. So why does Jacob end the last chapter? Is it chapter 7? Unless he says it in chapter 6. I think it's chapter 7. "Brethren, adieu." French wasn't spoken at that point when they left Jerusalem, so especially not in Jerusalem. Okay, Emma Smith, says Smith's wife. Emma Smith Bideman, after she had remarried, was interviewed late in her life by her son, Joseph Smith III, about her knowledge of the early church. This interview took place in February 1879 in the presence of Louis C. Bideman, her husband. At one point, Emma stated the following: "In writing for your father, I frequently wrote, day after day, often sitting at the table close to him, he sitting with his face buried in his hat, with the stone in it, and dictating hour after hour with nothing between us." Well, here's three witnesses right there, two friends and his wife. He used the seer stone in the hat. Why didn't he use the magic spectacles? Why do you use the magic stone? I think the story tells us that when Moroni got upset with him for losing the 116 pages, he took away the Urim and Thummim. So Joseph just said, that's okay, I'll just practice my own magic. I'm already good at this. Since I've used it for seeking treasure and other things. I mean, does this really sound right? Is this a story you're comfortable with telling your friends as you invite them to hear the gospel lessons? Okay. Maybe we should go to the Joseph Smith history, see what he says about his past history with seer stones and money digging. See if he's matching their story, if he's got a different story. Okay, so in the last video we read numerous accounts of his Joseph Smith's treasure seeking, and he was the seer, and he practiced magic. Not just the gazing, which is magic, but also the necromancy. Here's what he says, though. In the month of October 1825, I hired with an old gentleman by the name of Josiah Stoll, who lived in Chenango County, state of New York. He had heard something of a silver mine having been opened by the Spaniards in Harmony. So he comes all the way to Palmyra, 150 miles away, to hire a guy to dig. Couldn't find any diggers where he was. I don't think that's it. It's just that Joseph had a reputation as a seer with his stone. Susquehanna County, state of Pennsylvania, and had previous to my hiring to him been digging in order, if possible, to discover the mine. After I went to live with him, he took me, with the rest of all his hands, to dig for the silver mine, at which I continued to work for nearly a month, without success in our undertaking. And finally I prevailed with the old gentleman to cease digging after it. Hence arose the very prevalent story of my having been a money digger. Sounds like he's not being completely forthright. Sounds like he said he just went there to dig, and that's all he ever did as far as money digging, treasure seeking. When we've heard testimony after testimony that they are involved with magic, even his own mother. Previous video. During the time that I was thus employed, I was put to board with Mr. Isaac Hale. And that's where I met my wife. Okay, so he wasn't living with Josiah Stoll, and he was living with Isaac Hale, who was also involved in the escapade there. So this doesn't exactly sound like he's giving us the honest story of how he became known as a treasure seeker or money digger. He says it all came from digging for Josiah Stoll. Actually, did he actually say he did? So he went with the people who were digging. Well, I think it was the other way around. He had the reputation as a seer. That's why Josiah Stoll came to him and asked for his assistance. He'd already had another seer who failed to find the mine, so he came looking for another seer. He could find people to dig without going 150 miles. So, do we have honesty issues here? Well, we already had in this same account for this forced vision business in the Joseph Smith history, him saying that his mom and siblings joined the Presbyterian Church previous to him having the 1820 vision that he says he has in this account. We know that they joined in 1824. Could have been late 1823, but it was after Alvin died in November of 1823 that they sought the religion and it occurred. So, church history seems to be painted with a brush that's got some imagination in it, apparently, from the beginning. Still, we're in that Joseph Smith history. Maybe I should do one on the Joseph Smith history. Here he's got the Professor Anton story, the sealed book business and all that, like it's fulfilling prophecy. Well, Anton actually wrote something and published it and said he did have Martin Harris show him these characters And he said they were not Egyptian. Said it was gibberish, and it looked like it was off of a Mexican calendar disguised, and various other would-be hieroglyphs of different languages and so forth. That just, anyway, he made another statement later too. He was not impressed. So the story we get in the church history is not what we see that Professor Anton actually wrote about Joseph Smith's characters and his translation of a few of them and so forth. It's not the story that we got if you read what Anton said. I don't like the beginning of this whole History of Joseph Smith by Joseph Smith that he published in 1842. Owing to the many reports which have been put in circulation by evil-disposed and designing persons in relation to the rise and progress of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, all of which have been designed by the authors thereof to militate against its character as a church and its progress in the world, I have been induced to write this history to disabuse the public mind and put all inquirers after truth in possession of the facts, as they have transpired in relation to both myself and the church, so far as I have such facts in my possession. So we saw in another video, in the first vision, that the whole thing about his mom and the family members joining the Presbyterian Church was really something like early 1824, but he states that it was before his 1820 vision here, and it's one thing after another. And of course, the people then knew nothing about this proposed vision. There weren't any revivals in 1819 in Palmyra from any historical review we've seen. 1817, maybe 1823, 4, 5, around there, but not when he said this happened. None of it works for what he said. There were many things. I'm not going to try to revamp that at this point. The other videos got that in it in the first vision. So, disabused the public mind, and he was just being persecuted for saying he'd had this vision. No one even knew about it. His family didn't know about it. The interview with his brother William Smith, an apostle, he didn't know about any 1820 vision. Everything he quoted was about an 1823. And of course that was the Nephi or Moroni story. Remember, shh, Moroni, my brothers are sleeping. Picture shows Joseph alone. He had 4 brothers in the room too in his bed.